So does Chris Ballard deserve another chance? Thing is, this team has been built pretty well. It's just the matter of fact of how this team was built. He's good at finding talent. He's not great. He has found plenty of really good players, but he has not been consistent enough in the draft. There has been plenty of players, plenty of draft classes where you kind of go, well, it could have been better. Well, you had someone else on the board, you decided to take this guy. Upon that, he seems to get a little stubborn when it comes to bringing someone else in to replace his guy. Chris Ballard is kind of like the puppet right now of Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay tells him what to do, and Chris Ballard does it. That's not the topic of this video right now, but that's really what's going on right now. Jim Irsay's pissed off. He's been waiting for, this team has been hyped up quite a bit. We've had a few decent seasons, nothing spectacular. We had one playoff win under Chris Ballard's belt. Chris Ballard in general, he is, no pun intended, he's general manager, but 45, 48, and 1. He has one playoff win. And he has done pretty well with drafts. Like I said, he had a lot of good talent. But he has failed to fill in and draft guys in the most, or even just trade for someone, sign someone for the most important positions in football. Yeah, the linebackers pretty damn good. Yeah, the offensive line was pretty damn good. He let Mark Lewinsky and Chris Reed both walk. Very questionable decision because, you depended on your guy, Danny Pinner, who I was never a fan of at guard. Never thought that Danny Pinner should have been guard. Even before the season, I'm saying Pinner is not the answer. I'm willing to give him a shot, but he's not the answer. I was right. He's not the answer. And I wasn't happy about Matt Pryor being at left tackle. I was in the middle about Matt Pryor, willing to give him a chance for how well he looked last year. Didn't last long. Looked horrible all year. Didn't stay there long. Bernard Ryman is the starter now. So let's go back to the beginning of his tenure. When he first gets here, Andrew Luck has, he's brought here in the middle of the 2016 playoffs. Andrew Luck had the surgery, he had the shoulder problem. He was expected to be back the next season. He had the surgery in the offseason. Didn't come back. So, Chris Ballard kind of did a good job. Actually, he didn't do a good job in that draft class either, in the 2017 draft class. He did pretty bad. Draft class is not pretty good. He has three notable players in the draft class. You had, let's see, I have all the draft classes here. You had Malik Hooker. Didn't really turn out well after the ACL tear. He looked phenomenal to start. After that, he was horrible. Quincy Wilson, never panned out. Terrell Basham, never panned out. Same thing with Zach Banner, who was a tackle. Then you have Marlon Mack and Grover Stewart. Two guys that were impactful. Marlon Mack was good for a few years. He was with us for a couple of years. He had the Achilles tear. I believe it was an Achilles tear. And since then, he hasn't been anything. He hasn't had another chance. You're a running back. You have a serious injury. Your value plummets. And sometimes you just never find a way to come back from it. And Marlon Mack is one of those examples. Grover Stewart is the lone guy from this draft class that is an absolute stud. On the field and in the locker room, Grover Stewart is phenomenal. Nate Hairston, horrible. I mean, fifth round guys. These last two guys here were fifth rounders. So and then you had Anthony Walker though, who was a leader, man. Wasn't great in pass coverage. He was good at stopping the run. He had very good. He actually had awesome presence. He was kind of like the quarterback of the defense. So Anthony Walker was very important to that defense. The communication was up here with him. I was happy with Walker, but pass coverage was kind of horrible. Nonetheless, I would say Anthony Walker was a solid pick. Not great. Actually for the fifth round, that's a solid pick. That's a very good pick. All right, so then you move to 2018, right? You have Quentin Nelson, Shaquille Leonard, two All-Pros. I am not going to discredit him for those guys. I'm going to discredit the way he handled the contract situations in a bit. But Braden Smith, the next guy up, He's had his good moments. He was drafted as a guard. We had some injuries. Matt Slauson became the right guard, I think, that year. Or it might have been Glow. I think that's the year we drafted, that's the year we signed Glow. Matt Slauson was maybe the right tackle. He got hurt. Brandon Smith got shifted over, and the rest was history until this year, kind of last year. He was hurt last year quite a bit. Got the contract this year, and he just hasn't, he's had his good times this year. Just not worth the money that he was paid. Then you have Kamal Couture. He's a shot in the dark, man. He didn't do anything for us, really. He had injuries. Not really Chris Ballard's fault. I always thought Kamal Couture was very talented. He kind of had that explosiveness off the edge when he was healthy. Problem was staying healthy. Not really going to get too mad at Ballard for that one, even though he still didn't pan out to be too much. Tyquan Lewis still in the team. Nyheim Hines was just traded, but Nyheim Hines was a phenomenal guy. He was a very good. He was never really that feature guy in our system, but he was always that guy that he was like a very good scat back. Give him the ball, he makes a big play. Very good locker room guy. You'll notice all of these guys are very good locker room guys. 90% of them, or probably like 95. Deion Kane had an impressive training camp. That was really it. Never saw serious time. Matthew Adams, good special teamer. Good special teamer. For the 7th round, that's phenomenal. And then Zaire Franklin, he's been a damn good linebacker. He's been pretty damn good for us. So the 2018 class is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Move on to the 2019 draft class. As you hear my voice, it's not as good. I mean, it's very difficult to replicate a Colts 2018 draft class where you draft a guy like Quentin Nelson, Shaq Leonard, Braden Smith. You got Nyheim Hines, Tyquan Lewis, who when he was healthy, he's been playing pretty good. Zaire Franklin, Matthew Adams, a special teams guy. Jordan Wilkins was a decent number 3 for us. Number 2 at one point when guys were hurt. Pretty damn good class. Move on to 2019. Rocky Ya-Sin never panned out. He had a few bright spots, a few bright moments. We just traded the Raiders for Yannick Ngakoue. It's looking like Rocky Ya-Sin is playing pretty damn well over in Vegas. It's seeming like a lot of people are really, liking him over there in Vegas. He's played pretty well. Ben Banigou, barely ever saw the field. Just hasn't been there ever from TCU. Paris Campbell still in the Colts. He has his bright spots where he plays well. I think he's electric. Just got to get him the ball to make a play. His injuries have held him back. And now, when he's finally healthy, the quarterback play is really hurting him as well. I think Paris Campbell was a okay pick there. Bobby Okereke, he's been pretty damn good. I'll definitely take a linebacker like Bobby O in the 3rd round. Curry Willis, he was good for a few years. As last year he was really bad, and then the draft where last year we took kind of the Nick Krause, who I think was going to be the eventual replacement. Instead, Curry Willis just retires, and we do have Rodney McLeod too. So they kind of picked him up. They kind of seemed like they were ready for it because they signed guys like Rodney McLeod, all that kind of stuff. But Bobby O, Curry Willis, we know he retired early. He had bright seasons. He had like 1 or 2 bright seasons, and that's about it. EJ Speed, he's finally getting his chance, and he's played pretty well. Gary Green, not too much. Jackson Barton, Javon Pyerson, those last 3 guys didn't really do squat. 2020 year was actually pretty decent, right? You had Michael Pittman Jr. It's been good. He has had a rough season this year so far, a rough stretch. I'm just not too thrilled with how he has played this year. Fumbles, some drops, even though he's very difficult with the quarterback play right now. Jonathan Taylor, he's been phenomenal when healthy, and now he's healthy. He's finally looked like not exactly 2021 Taylor, but he's looked a lot better. It's looking like he's getting better from that ankle every week. Julian Blackman, phenomenal. He has injury issues, but whatever. Jacob Eason at the time was a phenomenal draft because I believe you had Phillip Rivers that year, so it's kind of the best situation possible. Sit behind Rivers, get a chance. He threw one pass with us versus the Rams last year when Wentz was out with the He went out with the double ankle sprain. He left early, and one pass, one interception. Even now he's with the Seahawks. Yeah. Danny Pinner, as I just said, he's a decent backup center guard. He's horrible. Robert Windsor never really did much. Isaiah Rodgers. I think Robert Windsor retired early. Yeah. Something happened with that. Isaiah Rodgers, love Isaiah Rodgers. When he's on the field, he is electric. Desmond Patman hasn't really done much. Jordan Glasgow was a phenomenal special teams. We let him go for some reason. 2021, you have Kwity Paye, injury issues, but when he's on the field, he's still learning. He's still getting better. But this year, he has actually played pretty damn well. Very good. He has elite presence in the run. Deo Dangbo we haven't seen too much from him, but he is electric when he has been in the field. He has been quite the stud, quite electric. Kylan Granson, few drops here and there. That's a pretty good pick for the 4th round. Sean Davis didn't really play at all. He got cut. Sam Ehlinger, we just saw what happened with him. It was a good pick at the time, trying to find some depth, but we all know that he is not the future. Mike Strawn never really got his chance. Will Fry is getting his chance, and he's been actually looking pretty good. So then you have the 2022 year. Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, Bernard Ryman, Nick Cross, Eric Johnson, Andrew Ogletree, Curtis Brooks, Ronnie Thomas. It was surprising that Curtis Brooks was dropped. Ronnie Thomas has looked not the greatest, but he has had some good plays, some good snaps. Andrew Ogletree, he had a good tight end. He had a phenomenal training camp toward the ACL. There goes his year. Eric Johnson, haven't really seen much from him. He's been on the field, haven't really seen too much from him, though. Nick Cross, haven't really seen too much of him. He played a lot in the first few weeks, and then all of a sudden it stopped. Bernard Ryman, we're still going to see with him. Jelani Woods, when he's been on the field, been awesome. Alec Pierce has made some big-time catches. He has had some drops here and there, but Alec Pierce has been a fun wide receiver to watch. He's really good at going up and getting those big-time contested catches. So maybe we spent too much time, but I want to go through every single player, every single draft since when Chris Ballard was here. There are a good, decent amount of solid picks. Some amazing, incredible picks. There's also many picks where you go like, you're scratching your head where he's trying to be right in a way. You like Ballard in some ways, but as you've noticed, in those few years, we haven't had one quarterback longer than a year. Some guys have started one game. I think Ehlinger started 2, and then Frank was fired. So the year Andrew Luck retired, right? That really gave Chris Ballard the crap end of the stick. You had Jacoby play the year, hot start, didn't do too well. The next year, you signed Phillip Rivers. You don't sign any receivers. You did sign Devin Funches, but I believe that was for Jacoby. That team in 2018 was built for Andrew Luck. 2019, I think it was. Yeah, that team was built for him. Then he retired 2 weeks before. I will say, not every general manager has a quarterback like Andrew Luck retiring you in the prime. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look like Chris Ballard has really done anything to try and find a long-term solution. Yeah, maybe there hasn't been spots in the draft where it hasn't favored you to get the guy. And I kind of like the idea of being careful with who you're picking, but not being too careful. Otherwise, you're never going to get your guy. Chris Ballard has been way, way too conservative. Sometimes you have to go up and trade up for that guy. Look at the Bears. They traded up for Justin Fields. The Ravens trade up for Lamar Jackson. The Texans trade up for Watson. The Chiefs trade up for Patrick Mahomes. If you want that guy, your guy, you have to go and get him at all costs. But he's always said, if I pick the wrong guy, you guys are going to run me out of town. Well, if you don't pick anyone or make an attempt to, you're going to be run out of town anyways. You've wasted precious years of Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson, which are 27 and 26 right now, 27, both 27. But you get my point. I don't know the exact age, but you get my point. All-star players, you just wasted a few years. Didn't seem like it at the time, but right now it's wasted. Wasted because you didn't go out and take a chance. when you finally had a good offensive line for a while. You still had the good offensive line, yet you continue to settle. When you still haven't paid your cornerstone guys. Now you're in a spot where if you draft a quarterback, he's going to come into crappy offensive line he's going to be hit 50 times 50 times his first year. Weapons are Michael Pittman's, has been good. I really like Alec Pierce. I'm excited to see a year 2 jump, but who is his quarterback going to be for the next 5 years? Is it going to be Tom Brady next year? Or is it going to be Jared Goff next year? Or Jameis Winston? You don't know what this franchise. You don't know what Chris Ballard. Now, I just say, this offseason, you cut Matt Ryan. You save $17 million. Right? You let Nick Foles start. There's no other option. No other option. If you draft the guy this year, you still let Nick Foles play for a little while. Whether it's Chris Ballard or not, we need our guy. Now, I don't necessarily want to force it this year. Because other than Bryce Young at the top, I don't think anyone is worth trading up for. Yeah, we are at, number 9 right now. So, you kind of want to be at 4 or 5, maybe, 4 or higher for your franchise guy. It depends. Top 10 it works. It's just the ideal for having your franchise guy for draft them is in the top. It's top 5. Just off of projection wise, and where you're, if you're number 1, you're the worst, so you kind of need a quarterback. If you're number 1, most likely you do. But Chris Ballard, kind of getting off topic here, but Chris Ballard, man, he needs to find some aggressiveness. Does he deserve another year? This year, beginning of the season, we had wide receivers go down. I think Pittman and Pierce both went down. I can't remember the starters. Maybe it was, I think the starter was probably Ashton Doolin. We had Desmond Patman, Mike Strawn. Yeah, that's not ideal. And he's stubborn. Because other teams, great football teams, are expected to do good that year. It's kind of different with the Colts because, they were expected to be great. They were expected to be pretty good this year. The offensive line sucked. Everything went wrong. But at that point, we still thought we had, we were still a good football team. We just, maybe it needs a few weeks. Obviously not now. But at the time, why wouldn't you be aggressive and go out and get a veteran? There were plenty of guys like Keelan Cole. I can't remember off the top of my head who was available back then. But there were quite a few receivers that are available. And you don't touch them. You hope that your guys are going to get the job done. Just like you hope that Danny Pinner would replace Glow and Reed. Oh, were you so wrong. And then he's always trying to band-aid those important positions. Left tackle, he signed Eric Fisher. He always tries to get bargain deals at the best positions, and he always tries to get the non-premium positions up the top and try to get a bargain on the premium guys because he doesn't want to pay a lot of money. But you're paying a lot of money to the non-premium guys anyway, so how does it matter? And, he has the mindset of he doesn't want to bring in other guys and pay them a lot because it might get the players that they have mad. But if they're not playing up to the standard, then you need to be replaced. But if they're Chris Ballard's guy, you don't want to impede on them. You don't want to step on their feet. Even if they're playing bad. Even if they're in a spot where they're just not playing good at all. And, they have been in this spot for a few years. Like Rock. You actually gave her a Rock. That was surprising. Because it was Ballard's guy. Wouldn't be surprised if Rock did something that Ballard didn't like. Because he has a huge ego. Huge ego. You may not see it in the press conferences. Although in that Jim Irsay press conference, man, he was pissed. Wasn't happy with the decision because it wasn't his decision. It wasn't his guy that he wanted. Frank. Let's talk about Frank for a minute. I feel bad for Frank. I feel bad for Chris in a way. But at the end of the day, their jobs are to go. Chris Ballard's job is to go and get guys for Frank Reich. So Frank can coach these guys to a championship. Chris Ballard didn't get the right guys. Never did. So it's kind of hard to put all the blame on Reich. Even though this team wasn't really ready all the time, it doesn't really help when you never provided Reich with the proper pieces to being that championship team. You never did that. So in a way, these players turned on Reich and Ballard in a way, but Reich took all the blame. Chris Ballard's getting some too, which is definitely deserved. I feel like Frank Reich got more than he deserved. And honestly, I gave him more than I thought he deserved. But at the end of the day, the team wasn't ready. But you could think of it in that sense, with Chris Ballard not giving him the pieces to help him get the players ready. Does that make the players pissed at Frank and not want to play for him? There's a lot to take into consideration. Love Frank Reich. No, I'm not gonna go and say I love him. I don't know why I just said I like Frank Reich a lot. I don't. But if at all, yeah, the play calls were bad too. That's inexcusable. Thing is, Chris Ballard isn't there for this job. Chris Ballard doesn't deserve a second chance. Chris Ballard doesn't deserve to try and pick our franchise guy. If he never wanted to before, never was willing to trade up to go and get him for Frank, to help Frank, to get the proper pieces for Frank. I'm not saying nothing's on Frank. There is a crapload on Frank. He was classy in a lot of ways in his press conferences. People were mad that he said the same stuff over and over again, but in reality, sometimes having a head coach like that isn't horrible. It's just when you're not winning, that's when it becomes bad. That's when it becomes stop with the same stuff. Something needs to change. So you take what you want from this, but I'm telling you, Chris Ballard needs to go. And that is the truth. Chris Ballard, yeah, he's done very good with drafting guys, like I said. But he has band-aided premium important positions. And where has that gotten us? When you keep band-aiding positions, it digs you deeper in the hole for later. If you're not paying a lot of money, whether you were paying a lot of money to very good players for a few years and not having to worry about that, instead you have to go and worry about it after every offseason. Are you going to re-sign this guy? And if he plays really well, and then you have to pay him even more, and Chris Ballard's probably going to let him walk because he wants more money. If you just keep band-aiding it, you're going to be in a bad position. And if you're going to pay non-premium guys premium money, you're going to be even in a worse position, like he is now. Needs all these band-aids. You're paying all this money to non-premium positions. Now, Quentin Nelson is phenomenal. He's a generational talent, as Darius Leonard is as well. Darius Leonard is that rare instance where you pay a linebacker premium money. But let me ask you this still. I can't really ask that with Leonard because he forces turnovers like crazy. So forcing those turnovers will help you win a championship. One of the most important things. But a guard is the number one guard in the National Football League. Is the highest paid guard going to win you a Super Bowl? Or is the highest paid tackle going to win you a Super Bowl? You pick. Left tackle, right tackle, whatever. You guys, let me know what you think about this topic. I've expressed my feelings here. I let you know what I thought of the draft classes, went through them, talked to them about you guys. So now your guys' job is to let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, put that post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is JDW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.